So one of the most critical elements of the Heist operations machine software stack is going to be Slack. Slack, for the most part, has almost entirely removed the need for email. So if we ever need a direct response or an interaction, we'll do it in Slack. Email is much more for informed messages or forwarded messages from our brand that need attention. So if you've got a question for somebody on the team or it's a more dynamic exchange, we do all of that here within Slack. It's also really important because we're typically operating on different time zones. So Slack is really good for that interaction. We can kind of check in at the beginning and end of our days to make sure that we kind of catch up on messages. So most of the action and activity within Slack is going to happen within the general tab for us. You can kind of just see here all the interactions for the day. So if it's just general kind of work-oriented things, we do that here. You'll also see here too that we basically do sign in and sign out times here. So if somebody's about to check in for the day, we'll notify everybody here in the general. If we're about to sign off and be away from our computer and away from Slack, we will basically just say, hey, we're going to sign off in 30 minutes. So it's kind of the central hub of activity for most of our communications. If you go over here on the left-hand side, we'll just go kind of top to bottom on this. The alerts is actually something that we have activated through Cellarize. So I'll go over to the Cellarize account really quick here. So within Cellarize, if you go here to the smart alerts and click on that, you can basically set up configurations for your entire brand. You can also do it at the ASIN level if you want. So some of those configurations that you can kind of see here, basically critical things that happen with any of your ASINs, it will notify you here within the Cellarize dashboard. But the cool thing here with the Cellarize alerts that you don't really see elsewhere is this channels tab. So you can have it email you can have it notify you within the app, but most critically, you can actually tie in your Slack here and enable it within Slack. So anytime something happens with any one of our SKUs across all of our different brands, we basically get alerts in this alert tab. So it's very beneficial to have that real time during the workday. Somebody on my team while I'm sleeping sees this stuff. We'll obviously consolidate this as part of a daily digest email, which we'll get into later on. But generally speaking, Alerts tab is really good for staying on top of changes with products. The next is an actual brand, so we're going to kind of close that out. So anything specific to do with this specific brand, that's a specific issue, customer service inquiry, question, things like that, we'll have that here within this brand. We also have a customer support tab. So if there's a question that somebody on the team cannot answer and needs my feedback or somebody else's feedback, we basically do all of our customer support questions here. The next is FBA exit. So I've got an FBA exit site through my own experience of selling my Amazon brand. It's called FBAexit.com. Sometimes people go there and they set up time on my calendar for a conversation about exiting their business. So Nina on my team basically manages all of the interactions that come through there and helps schedule the meetings, etc. So anything to do with FBA exits here. We've got the FBA Blueprint course, which you are now a part of, so thank you for doing that. Anything to do with the course and activities on the course is going to be there. I've got the Heist YouTube stuff. Again, anything to do with YouTube, we've got that there. We've got a lock section for interviews, so we typically will interview people initially via Slack, just because oftentimes if we're hiring internationally, we don't want people to be too judged on language skills because it's really going to be written communication skills that matter. So most of our initial interviews are going to take place in this interview section on Slack. So we've got that as a lock channel so we can invite people to that temporarily. And then here's another brand that we've got just a dedicated channel to. Again, anything specific to that brand we put in there. And then every Sunday I have a weekly team meeting and we go over like a laundry list of things that we're going to be focused on for the week. We talk about our weekends. We share photos because I think that's super important with remote teams to get to know each other more on a personal level. And then just any outstanding questions the team has for me, thoughts on what we should be focused on the week ahead. We do all of that Sunday evenings here in this weekly team meeting. If you have access to that module 8, kind of the upgraded version of this course, we go into team management and how we do all that stuff in that course, but this is where we do the weekly team meetings. And then obviously we've got all of the direct message kind of elements here. So if it's related to do to somebody's paycheck or there's a personal issue or something that we don't want to talk about publicly, we'll use this direct messages section for that. And then in terms of apps, we've got integrated Google Drive. We've got the Guru SOPs, which is super cool because if you've got kind of questions or things on SOPs, it will automatically pull it up here in Slack if you need to send somebody instructions on something. And then we've got the seller alerts tied in. So super simple. I would say that like 90% of our activity is going to take place here on this general section, and that's where most of the magic happens. But Heist is phenomenal. If you're using email for communications within your team, you're probably wasting a lot of time and it's not as efficient. Slack is where it's at. It also has a mobile app, and you can turn off those notifications on the mobile app at certain hours if you don't want to have work impede on your free time. So that's Slack.